So now we're going to talk about the resource-based approach to resources and capabilities. And this contrasts to Michael Porter's approach. So remember, we talked about resources and capabilities a little bit earlier in this module, and Porter's approach looked at monopoly rents. And in this understanding of resources and capabilities, all resources and capabilities are designed to generate barriers to entry within an industry. You want to be the only player in an industry to provide a certain level of quality, the only player in an industry to provide a certain product range, the innovation leader, the first person to introduce a faster, better, cheaper product. So these are what we call monopoly rents. So resources and capabilities, physical resources and those capabilities that go with them, are designed to produce monopoly rents. And you think of these, I shouldn't say physical resources and capabilities, but these resources are seen as, I don't know, somewhat static, right? They're things, you look at the economic pie, it's kind of fixed. And you want to generate as many resources as you can in a zero-sum type of game. And of course, these are the resources you control, and then you use the capabilities to kind of expand that pie and take away pie from someone else. Okay? Now, the resource-based view approach looks at what we call Ricardian rents. And this looks at unique combinations of resources. So you'd like to have the value chain in a single location, have the most culminated experience, best product design, best process competencies. So in a Ricardian rents, by looking on the inside of the firm, in many ways, you can work to, because you're learning more, you can generate more. It's not necessarily a zero-sum game in strategy. Okay? So you use the unique resources to generate the value chain, to get more experience, to design better things, to move the economic pie outwards, and of course, get more wealth in the process. So it's a very different way of examining our resources and capabilities. And by the way, I don't think that one or the other is particularly right or wrong. Just, excuse me, I'm just explaining the differences. So the reason that you might look at a resource-based view approach to strategy is that when the external environment is subject to rapid change, the internal resources and capabilities offer a more secure basis for strategy than market focus. So under the Porterian approach, again, you're looking at being the best. You're trying to seize that particular opportunity, okay? And you devote all of your resources to getting that opportunity and making sure nobody else gets it. But once you get it, you might realize that the opportunity is no longer there, or it wasn't that good of an opportunity to begin with, and yet you focused everything on that approach. When you look at resources and capabilities from a resource-based view, then you're saying, well, let's look at what we are actually good at and kind of create our own opportunities along the way. And you know what, if one opportunity doesn't work, doesn't matter, we've still got all these amazing resources that can be redeployed elsewhere. You look at some examples of resource capabilities and shifting opportunities. You know, if you look at Olivetti, they used to be a typewriter company. Okay? They looked almost at monopoly rents, okay, because they had managed to force everybody else out of the typewriter, well, not everybody else, but a lot of the other competitors out of the typewriter market. But when they tried to get into the PC industry, they failed utterly because it was a typing company, not a computing company. Compare that approach to something like 3M. Okay? 3M has one of their core competencies is adhesives. And that's, you know, has more than 30,000 products based on these adhesives. You know, sticky notes, chemical adhesives, all sorts of things. So they have everything developed towards developing adhesives and then using those adhesives in different applications. So it gives them a lot more versatility and a lot more flexibility in the face of a changing environment. So if you look at resources and capabilities as a foundation of strategy under the resource-based view, there's a couple things you'd want to look at. You would consider the firm's resources and capabilities as the primary source of profitability and the basis for strategy, but almost an inward looking. You would look at the rent-earning potential of all resources and capabilities and their strategic importance. And you would assess the firm's strengths and weaknesses with regards to your own internal resources and capabilities, and not necessarily benchmarking it to your competition. And you would formulate strategies that leverage and or develop the things that you're already good at or that are already high rent earning with regards to resources and capabilities. So for example, using 3M, they found out that the chemical, the industrial buyer didn't want those adhesives. It doesn't matter, you've already developed adhesives. Use them to make sticky notes, for example. Instead of Olivetti thinking that they could leverage typing into the PC industry. So you need to be able to assess the profit generation potential of different resources and capabilities. And you should focus on these resources and capabilities under a variety of fronts. Okay? Resources and capabilities should be scarce. Okay? A rare resource can easily become a source of competitive advantage. The resource should be irrelevant with regards to the key success factors of a given sector. So when we talked about scarcity, right? Certain physical locations are rare or unique, like a big parking lot or a big place where like Walmart can establish one of their superstores. That's a hard thing, that's a scarce resource, and so you can't really imitate it, but it can become a competitive advantage within a certain market area. The relevance should be important. Again, if you're looking at Walmart, one of their great competencies is the management of logistics. That's very germane in the retail sector. But if you're looking at an IT consulting firm, probably a logistics capability will be less relevant because the key success factors in IT consulting are more service-based. A resource or capability should be durable. Okay? Think of things like your brand, your reputation, the technology that you use. Okay? Perhaps a special software program that Walmart uses to manage their logistics might be a good example. Non-transferable and non-acquirable on the market. I mean, that's really important. And that's when you start looking at Walmart's logistics thing. These are all pieces that fit together in a unique way for Walmart. It's not like Target could hire the head of logistics from Walmart and all of a sudden they could replicate that system. No, it is a system, it is a culture of logistics that cannot be transferred. And you also want to look at non-replicable. And that, of course, can be things like that are protected by law, copyrights, patents, things like that, that are extremely complex, things like organizational culture or organizational history. Of course, property rights is also important. You certainly have a specific location that can't be replicated, a geographic or physical location. Some sort of bargaining power is also considered an important resource and capability. Again, I'll use Walmart. They are so big that they can bargain with their partners and clients in such a way that generates value. And that's also something that's actually pretty hard to replicate. And of course, embeddedness is important. So any given resource or capability should be so nested into the firm that it can't necessarily be spun off and able to stand on its own 2 feet. A couple other things to look at. You should also look at the stage of profit generation. Okay? Every firm needs to create a competitive advantage that is scarce, of course, as I just mentioned, and is also relevant. You need to sustain your competitive advantage with good durability, have resources that are immobile or extremely mobile, have flexibility as a key success factor, and non-replicable for competitors, but replicable within the firm itself. And you should also consider appropriability. Things like property rights, relative bargaining power, and of course embeddedness of resources. And I mentioned a little bit already, risk resources is another way of looking at resources and capabilities from a resource-based view. Your resources should be valuable, they should be rare, hard to imitate, and hard to substitute. Couple final notes. I'm actually going to summarize in the next video on resources and capabilities from a resource-based view. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.